Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bold and Beautiful. I know it's been a while. I have to tell you, I have been so swamped with several things. First of all, work, teaching, and grading, and I teach English. So I'm grading a lot of papers. We've been working on college essays and preparing my students for college and their applications. So yeah, that has been a mission. And they're nervous and they're excited and they have so many questions. So I enjoy the time, but it is definitely a lot of work. So I'm excited about that and just praying for their future and the best outcome for them and their families. The other thing is I've been going back to school. So I've been teaching full time, and I have been taking graduate classes full time as well. This has been a dream that I've had for many, many years, and several times I thought, I'm not going to do it. It's past the time. What am I going to do with it? And the Lord just put it in my heart. I really had no more excuses, honestly. I had some reasons. Our kids were young, but they're all grown up. And so I can't blame it on the kids, and just time. It was different seasons, different things that the Lord was having us do as a family. David and I in our marriage and ministry and things like that. And so, but this was the season. So I am almost done. I'm almost 3/4, maybe not 3/4, but 2/3 of the way done with my graduate program at University of West Florida, and it will be in educational leadership. So yeah, I want to see what that looks like. Praying God gives me wisdom. I see a couple of things, a couple of options that I have. I like to tell people what to do. Just kidding. I do actually. My family will tell you that. So I do like leadership roles. I love. What I like, not necessarily just telling people what to do, but what I really like is and enjoy is seeing people grow, seeing us learn, and collaboration. I love when great minds come together, because God has made us creative. So we create things. And when we get into a room, when you're in a room full of people who are creative, who are, intentionally thinking to be creative, awesome things happen. So I do enjoy that aspect of leadership. I love that inspiring and being able to motivate people to move from one area to the next area, to look at some issues that we need to solve and solve them. So, I have been known to be the problem solver, even when people didn't want me to solve their problems. So ask my children and they will tell you so. So I definitely like that. Who knows what the Lord has? I'm feeling it out, but I'm also moving forward. And that's a couple of things that I want to talk about today. So first of all, I apologize for not putting out a podcast. It's been several weeks now, and I think it's really important to do so. I had a couple of obstacles in the way for the last few weeks, but here we are. So thank you for those who have been faithful. And it was like, where did she go? Did she give up? No, I did not give up. Bold and Beautiful. The Lord put that in my heart, and I am trying to manage my time in order to do that. So thank you for bearing with me and for being faithful and sharing and liking and subscribing and leaving me comments. I really do appreciate that. And I really do hope that you get some amazing nuggets out of this podcast. I am looking forward to it growing. I have more projects than I think I can count on my hands here. And, but there's a timing on those. And so, but there's a book that I have been longing to write, and God said, not yet. So to me, that means He's still teaching me some things that I need to put in that book. So, I am looking forward to that. I do have some chapters of probably at least 3 books outlined. And so I am looking forward to being able to write more and getting those out, because, I know the Lord has some just mysteries to unfold, not only to you, but to me. And so, when I wrote Just Breathe Again, that was a revelation God gave me, and I wanted to share it with you. And sometimes I'll go back and I'll read chapters, I'll read pieces of it. I'm like, oh, wow, God, that is so good. Thank you. I couldn't have come up with that myself. So I am looking forward to that. And I hope God is doing some amazing things in your life as well. But we are coming up on the election. We're just less than a month away of one of the most pivotal points in our history in the election. Now, early on, I did a podcast with my closest friend, Adrienne Ross, on the Adrienne Ross Show, and we talked about how, we've gone through different seasons, we've gone through these different political seasons, our country has gone through several shifts and whatnot, and we always, through all of those seasons, we managed to stand no matter who's in office, right? And so one of the comments that I think I made was, this election is important, yes, but, if it goes the way that somebody's going to lose, right? So a good portion of the country is going to be disappointed in some shape or form or fashion, and but as long as the Lord gives us breath, we're going to survive. We're going to survive it. But I have since, as this time has, so in a sense, I do believe that. In another sense, I do think as time has gone on and we've gotten closer to the election and more has been revealed about what is at stake here, I feel hard pressed to say that same thing, to repeat that same sentiment. I think that we are at a pivotal point in America where we have to make a decision. We have to stand up and we have to know what we're standing up for. So, you need to vote. Everybody needs to vote. If you have the right and the ability and the wherewithal, you have the citizenship to vote, then you need to vote. You need to always vote, but you need to definitely vote in this election. We cannot be silent. I think it's ignorant of us to think that to complain about something that we refuse to participate in, to spout off, again, complaints and bickering and division and, opinions and arguments if we're not seated at the table participating. And so, people say, well, my vote doesn't count. It's just one vote, it's gonna land wherever it's gonna land anyway. Well, you know what? Your vote plus whoever else had the same thought the same thing, adds up to a lot of votes. So I appreciate the opportunity to vote, to have that right to vote, as a woman, as an African American, as an educator, as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister. I appreciate the right to vote, the opportunity and the responsibility to vote. So I hope you're doing the same thing. And with that, I hope that you are looking at the issues as they are. Sometimes it's hard to see and hear through all the noise and through all of the rhetoric that's out there, through all of the false, the misinformation, the disinformation, the fake news, even the satire that's out there. Sometimes you're like, wait, is that true? Or is that a joke? If you've ever listened to my husband try to explain a joke to me that just went right over my head, you know what I mean? But, so sometimes you're like, wait a minute, I'm not quite sure. If you're not sure, look it up. I told my students yesterday, I said, look, don't be lazy researchers. If you don't know, what do you have to do? We've got to research, miss. So yes, we've got to research, and we all have our part to play. So there's a lot of things that we don't know, we don't understand, and there's, it's a good segment of information in our country that we won't understand because we don't have that whole picture. The government's not going to let us have that whole picture all at once anyway. We've got to find those nuggets. We've got to listen to those who have connections, who are sometimes the whistleblowers, oftentimes the whistleblowers, right? And people in media whom we can trust. Sometimes you don't know you can trust, right? So you've got to definitely check out all the sources to see, who's telling the whole story. And usually no one person or no one network or no one media outlet is telling the whole story. You're going to have to pull it from several different areas. So, years ago, I want to say, oh my goodness, in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s even, before the internet was so broad and so, accessible to everybody, we were in a meeting, just several leaders in our area in upstate New York. We were in a meeting and, prophecy was going forth. And I remember a prophet saying, the biggest problem that the church and that people, our country is going to have to deal with is technology. that is going to be the biggest, the most toxic, if you will, opportunity that the enemy, that the devil has to use against God's people. And so we've seen that. We've definitely seen these, as internet has just brought all of us, brought people together, brought communities together, brought, all over the world. You definitely, obviously, some amazing things that we experience because of the internet, because we have community, because we're able to do more very quickly. We're able to spread the word of God and knowledge and all those things. But obviously there's a negative, and the enemy would like to use that as a tool. But that was a tool, and I thought, I can't even picture it. I'm like, what does that even mean? Growing up in the 90s. And I didn't understand that until we were walking through this advanced technology, decade, not really century, but these decades of advanced technology until my kids got to high school, really, and that's when there were certain aspects of it when they were in middle school. We moved to Miami from a small town in upstate New York in 2009, and we moved to Miami. We were wide-eyed, just like that, big giant eyes there, like deer in front of headlights. We were just so green to the area and to the influences here. Definitely, it's been an amazing experience in the sense that there is so much cultural diffusion, which we love. And, I'm so thankful that my children got to experience that. And they've met so many different people from all over the world and got to understand and learn about their cultures. And so I think that's pretty awesome, to help make them well-rounded. And I think they appreciate that. But then also I felt like, we're coming from a very small suburban, often rural, in some areas, rural area of upstate New York to, an urban city in Miami, really in the middle of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. Life happened quickly. And what I mean by that is that we were trying to grasp what was around us, what was going on. And, we latched on to, some great things, of course, and met a lot of people, but latched on to what was familiar and what, would bring stability, we felt like, in our lives. And in the process, yes, we did meet some amazing people, but then we also, life was just happening so fast. It was hard to keep up with making the decisions we needed to make at the time. So I would say, looking back, there were some things I wish I could do over. I can't, but what I can do is help this next generation, obviously in part to my children, which we did and we still do as they are adult children, but then also this next generation. What I love about education, this is my 28th year in education, and I love the atmosphere of learning, the environment of just that freshness of coming to an understanding about things, about everything, whether it's history or science or journalism or English or math, just anything that clicks for students. And I was walking today it was a testing day. We had the PSAT today. And so I was proctoring, but then when we were all kind of converged, all the testing was over and kids were going to lunch, and I was walking across campus and we were inundated with, kids, and we're dodging backpacks and all those things, and kids on their phones, in between classes and just all that movement. And I had to smile and look around that, man, I work in an amazing place. Really could be anywhere. I'm thankful, first of all, to be working in the school that I'm in South Florida, but really just being around young people, because their minds are open, their minds are malleable, they want to learn, contrary to some belief that say, man, kids are tough today, all they want to do is be on their phone. They want to know things, and they're on their phone because they want to know things. They want to see things. They want to communicate. They want to participate. They want to be participants in life. And that's how they're doing it. They're on their phone, and that's how they're doing it. And as much as we'd like to say, man, I wish they would just put their phones down. And yes, there is that. And we definitely want them to do that. We also have to understand and assess that they want to be participants. And our job as adults, as an educator, is to help them participate. Give them the eyes to see what they need to see around them. Help them see different perspectives. Help them to understand that what they see before them isn't always the truth. It might be a fragment of the truth, but it's not usually the whole truth. And so I think that's really important. And I guess there's three things that I want to talk about in this podcast. And one is that we need to participate. We need to participate in what God has put in our lap, really. He's handed it to us, and he has said, here's the word. Everything that we are experiencing in our world today is in this book. It's in the Bible, from the natural disasters. And thank you all for praying for us here in Florida. You know, God was amazing, and the storm went from a category 5 to a category 3. And, you know, we're definitely praying and supporting those who have their homes have been ravaged, their cities have been ravaged by the storm and the tornadoes that were here. But the Bible talks about these natural disasters in various places, which tells us that we're going to see storms. We're going to see natural disasters in places that we didn't anticipate. We've not had the tornado effect that has ever been seen in the state of Florida that we had in this past hurricane. And so, if we want to know where truth is, it's in the Word of God. We've got to read it, and we not only have to read it, we have to ask God to show us what it means. You know, show us what this means, Lord. What does it mean when we see all these natural disasters happening in our world? What does it mean when we see wars and rumors of wars? We're in the middle of that. We're contributing in that. Thank God that we're not seeing physical wars break out all over the United States. But what we are seeing is a spiritual war. And we've always seen that, but this time, at this moment, we're at a pivotal moment where God is saying, what are you going to do? He said, I know what I'm doing. I know what I've done. I know what I'm doing right now, and I know what I'm going to do. And he's asking us, I feel like he's asking us, what are you going to do? So the first thing I think that we need to look at is how do we become engaged? How do we sit at the table and participate? You know, I told the story about my students and just being around them wanting to participate. Well, how do we help them participate? First of all, we've got to protect them. We've got to protect them. How do we protect them? In many ways. But first of all, in the last month before election, we've got to vote. And that's one way of protecting them. We've got so many issues that are so important that I've never seen in my lifetime, in all of my half a century plus years of living. I've never seen young people at the point where all targets are on them. It's like they are the bullseye. And that's insane to me. And I feel like that should be insane to all of us. That we need to look at what is at stake here in terms of our rights for our young people. You know, and I think that the U.S. has been at the point where we want to be tolerant of everything. We can't be tolerant and make a decision between right, wrong, and between the truth and the lies. We cannot be tolerant. Let me give you an example. One of the examples we're looking at young people is their opportunity to make decisions. We don't allow children to make decisions on what they're going to eat from day to day. Every once in a while, you'll say, okay, what would you like to eat today? Do you want McDonald's or do you want Domino's? We might do that, right? But you don't give them McDonald's every day because it's probably not going to be healthy for them. You know, fast food every once in a while, you know, that makes sense. But if you give a child fast food every day, I don't know, I feel like that would be neglect, right? That would be some sort of, families have to do what they have to do. But I think that's a problem that we have to address. If you're in a family, and this is sort of a sidebar, if you are in a situation where you don't have time to feed your family, then we're doing something wrong in America, and that's a problem that we have to solve. And our politicians need to be working on that, because that's not God's design, and that's not the parents. Most parents' hearts is not say, I want to give my kid junk food every day, all day, and not have time for them to cook, have time to sit down at the table, have time to, walk, even if you're walking, you have a walking taco, something together. That's not usually the case in most families. If families are busy, if single moms or single dads are busy and they don't have time, or have little time for their children, that would not be on their list. Like, yeah, I'm good. I wouldn't have it any other way. I guarantee you they would not have that sentiment. And so if that's an issue in our country, then we've got to do something to solve it. Well, that's what voting here does. And you say, well, how does that happen? Well, we've got bills that are up for the vote in most states about abortion. We've got bills up for a vote in many states about having the right to choose whether to mutilate their bodies or not without a parent's consent. That blows my mind. You can't get your ID without a parent's signature. You can't go to the doctor without a parent's signature. You can't buy just regular medicine, cold medicine, without an adult being present and without the proper ID. You can't smoke, you can't buy alcohol, you can't do all of these things, and yet we would give children the opportunity and the responsibility to make decisions that they cannot change, to change their hormones, to change their sex. It's insane. That is insanity. Why do we feel like that's something that needs to be pushed in this year, in 2024 in America? It's because children are a target, and they have been targeted by media. They've been targeted by radical leftism. They've been targeted by socialistic ideas. They've been targeted. Let me go back for just a moment. Targeted by socialistic ideas. What does that mean? And I'm listening to teenagers every day, and they see the world as being so broken, and the way to fix it is to put everybody on the same playing field, at the same level, with the same finances, with the same opportunities, with the same, with the same box, life in a box. Well, we know in every socialistic society, communist society, authoritarian society, that just doesn't work. Ideally, it makes sense. Then everyone will be happy. But that's not how it works. Not everybody contributes to the point where they have the right to earn what someone who works hours and hours and hours and sets up their own business to earn. So that's like saying, I could stay in bed all day and collect a paycheck while my neighbor goes to work and works 80 hours a week and collects the same paycheck. That just doesn't make sense. The Bible says it like this, that if a man doesn't work, he doesn't eat. It's not complicated. Our society would like young people to believe the lie that I don't have to do anything. I don't have to work hard. I don't have to create the wealth that's here if it's just going to be given to me. And if it's not going to be given to me, it should be given to me because so much was taken from me. And not even from me, but so much was taken from my ancestors and their ancestors and their ancestors. Well, what are we creating? We're creating a bunch of lazy kids. That's what we're creating. Not my students, of course, because mine are working hard. They are hard workers. Yay! Mrs. Cordo's students. So no, they are, we have definitely different groups of people, but as a society, that's what social media is pushing. And if they're not pushing that, then they're pushing rebel. So you've got one group of an aspect of social media that says, that people are talking to that are saying, you don't have to do anything, just collect, just sit back and let it come to you. You just do this, this, and this, and it will be fine. And you have other ones that say, maybe there's 3 groups. You have others that say, look, you can be a YouTube influencer, you can be an influencer or a social media guru, and you can make millions of dollars just from your phone. And they're constantly on their phone. How can I do that? How can I post this? We've got little girls selling makeup. We've got little girls who 8, 9, 10 years old talking about skincare. Their skin is still growing. They don't. What do you mean skincare? Just wash your face with water, girl. There are lawsuits out there where these little girls have been using all these skincare products that were not meant for them. Okay? And then we have another group that says, if you scam your way to the top, that works too. You're working way too hard. You don't have to do all that. There's probably a couple of more groups. But the idea that we are creating a future for our children is lost in the face of a media that misinforms our children. And if parents are busy, as they are. I remember when, my kids were playing every sport imaginable, and I was driving from Homestead to Miami to, Doral every day. And we were living in the car. So yeah, we had a lot of fast food, or we had some fast food snacks on the way because it was going to take us an hour to get home. KFC or pizza, it's a round meal. I mean, those days were hard. Those days were rough. I did send them with a homemade lunch though, because I was not buying lunch at school. Okay. I mean, I had to draw the line somewhere. Sometimes we did. But we had a great cook. We had a great chef at our school. And so that was helpful whenever I did. But yeah, so, I needed to cook because I wasn't going to pay for it. But there were definitely times when we were in many times when we lived in the van. They were doing homework and they were, running from soccer practice. And my van, I couldn't wait to get rid of it because it smelled like cleats, sour cleats, and jerseys, and oh my goodness, it's like smells you cannot get rid of very easily, okay? And so there was that season. So I definitely understand when you're busy, life comes at you fast, literally, and it's hard to take that time. But you know what? We have to look at look at the forces that are targeting your children. And you will see that, we're up against social media giants. We're up against the most radical liberal agendas that we've never had to deal with before. You hear people talk about banning books and banning the classics, which is just ridiculous. But in most cases, but really, that banning books is not. It's a radical left attack on conservatism that says we don't want our children and our students to be reading books about how-to sex books in their libraries and in their classrooms. That's what that's all about. So you got to read the rest of the story, right? You've got to find out the rest of that information. And then on the other side of that, other coin of that, is that we can't be afraid to express ideas. America is built on freedom. We're built on the home of the brave and the land of the free. And in that freedom are a set of freedoms. And that is the right to speak, the freedom of speech. And if we can't express our ideas, then where will we go? What will we become if that is all censored? And that's what we have right now. We have media giants that are censoring our information so that our children, who are mostly attuned to what's going on social media, that's where they're getting their news from, they are not getting it. And then we have that next generation up, our college graduates, and our professionals who are pulling in pieces from what they hear on, okay, so maybe they listen to X, or they look at X, which is great because, there is a lot of freedom there thanks to Elon Musk. We appreciate that. But then when you look at, you look at Facebook, you look at Instagram, you look at Snapchat, usually the younger people use, I guess. And, you look at some of those things, and if that's where we're only getting our information again, or if we're just getting it from, say, CNN or just Fox News, then we're still missing the boat. We're missing the truth. So I say, stop the noise, stop all the hoopla of what's out in just filtering and flooding your, maybe not filtering, but flooding your technological devices, and say, God, what do you say? Lord, what do you say about what's happening in our political climate right now? What's happening in our country? Because all of that is here. All of the major players in the world are written in this book. I don't care what translation you read, it's in here. It's in here. And wisdom for how to deal with it. Wisdom for how to shape and raise our children. Wisdom for how to build relationships. Wisdom for how to do community. Wisdom for how to help those who are to help the poor, to help those who are suffering, to those who are sick. There's wisdom in here to do that. So we can't waste this moment. This is a pivotal moment. You've got to vote. You can't waste it. You have to go out and vote, and you have to vote for our kids. And you say, Kia, what do you mean? There's not a ballot box that says vote for my kids. No, but if you look at every policy, think of your children. That's the legacy. That's what this podcast is about today, is legacy. I know I had to drop everything. I've got homework to do. I've got papers to grade. I've got projects to grade. I've got all these things to do. But I had to just get online really quick and say, and record this podcast to say we have a responsibility to protect our children, to protect our current children, and those who are to come. And I mentioned abortion earlier. We don't understand what's at stake here. Abortive care is not health care. Now, are there times where the doctor has to make a decision, our medical professionals have to make a decision between, who's going to live or die? I mean, their Hippocratic oath says save as many lives as possible. That is the goal, correct? That's the goal. So I feel like we have it twisted, and thinking that abortive care is not, it's not care. In fact, it's uncaring when you look at the procedures, the abortion procedures, and you have people that have been in horrible and precarious positions, of course, violent positions, and those are horrible things, absolutely. I completely agree with that. But you can't kill the baby because we're dealing with that. Now, again, if you're in a situation where you're trusting your medical professional to make a decision, and you use the best tools that they know and the best opportunities that they medically know how to use and to employ, then yeah, absolutely. You're, as a mom, as a woman, you're putting your trust in your healthcare professional to do that. And I think that's, that is that's a tough position to be in. But I do expect that physicians that you're entrusting your lives to, and your baby to, and your own life, your family to, you've made that decision. That's why you chose them. That is not abortive care. That is not abortion. That is health care. That is saving as many lives as possible in that moment with the tools that you know how to do. That's the same instance. Let's take this for example. When people who have had natural childbirth, all my childbirths have been natural, and I thank the Lord for that. Painful, but natural. Those who have had to have C-sections, and they don't go in to give you a C-section as soon as you're like, I don't know if this baby's going to turn. No, the people that I know who have had C-sections they've been in labor for 12, 14, 22 hours before the doctor decides to open her up and say, okay, we're going to have to do this a different way. We're going to have to cut you open and take this baby out because it's just not working. But mama has already been going through labor for 22 hours. And it seems horrific, but why do they make that decision? Because that is not the goal. That is not the preferred method. Well, you have to see that abortion is not the way that any person would choose to decide, say, okay, this is my A plan. Who does that? I don't know anybody who says that this is my A plan. And there may be a couple people, there may be some divergents out there who say, you know what, that's always been the plan, and that's their mindset or what have you. But people who have had abortions typically are devastated. I've talked to them. I've prayed with them. Obviously, I've not prayed with all of them, so, don't twist my words. But I've prayed with them. I've prayed with them through the brokenness of having to go through an abortion, or even losing their baby, or not knowing what to do, being in a situation where they don't feel like they have the support to raise a baby, or they don't have the know-how to raise a baby. And I definitely helped walk them through that, and counseled and been with them and walked them through going through to the doctor, looking at the ultrasound, so I've definitely seen all those different sides of the coin. I know people who have, where they were the product of a botched abortion, or they experienced a botched abortion and the heartache. So when we look at this issue, you have to say, God, what do you want us to do? Where's the legacy? Because he's not called us to destroy. He's called us to build, to reproduce, to grow, to be creative. That's why we have the ability to create and to procreate. That's literally why we have those, have all the parts that we do, why the body works as it does. And anyone that has had a child knows the miracle of creating this baby. And ladies, you can't do it by yourself. So this radical agenda that says, it's a woman's right, I definitely agree. I'm a woman, so I definitely agree that we have rights, okay? Back off, we definitely have rights. But you don't get pregnant by yourself. I'm just saying, you don't get pregnant by yourself, right? So not only do we have rights and responsibilities, but so does dad. So does dad, and all the children out there who long to have that affirmation and hug and acceptance from their dads. Say amen, okay? Because dads play a role in that, but we're not hearing that. So let's just take apart this picture. Even if you did not agree with saving babies, even if you had a different perspective on that, don't we have some options? Okay, so in Florida, we have Amendment 4. And Amendment 4 says this. It says that no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. This amendment does not change the legislature's constitutional authority to require notification to a parent or guardian before a minor has. But where's the loophole here? It says they don't have to give prior consent. So let's go back for just a minute. Thank you for joining me for the first part of Bold and Beautiful. Look, if you have not liked and subscribed, be sure to go on YouTube at Bold and Beautiful Life. You can find me, Kia Cordell, not the TV show, Bold and Beautiful Life. And I'm also on all the major podcast platforms and all social media at Kia Cordell. Thank you. See you next time.